Hello, and thank you for joining us, everybody. My name is Todd Baginski, and welcome to the December 2020 Power Apps Community Call. As you can see, we're having a lot of fun with the holiday theme this week, and we are going to continue that throughout our call. If you haven't joined us on the Power Apps Community Call, we do this every month. You can find us doing this on the third Wednesday of every month at 8 a.m. Pacific time. In this call, we always go over what's latest in the land of Power Apps and related technologies in terms of news and community contributions. And we talk to folks on the product team who invent Power Apps, and they tell us about cool things that's coming and how to use it to build neat things. We also get technical deep dives from community members around the world. And today we're fortunate enough to have 3 of those community members joining us. And this is going to be a really fun call today. Our first call where we have a holiday themed call, and Sharon, Clarissa, and Jese have pulled together a whole bunch of fun for us today around the Christmas holiday theme. First, we're going to find out who's naughty or nice using Power Virtual Agents. And then we're going to monitor the ELF production line, I understand, with the Power App. And then we're going to take it one step further and see, okay, you've been naughty or nice and the present's been made. Let's track that present and see who gets it. So there we're going to show you how to use Power BI and Power Apps integration together. So the other thing that we will do when we're all done with that is news and community contributions. We would like to issue a big happy holidays to all of you. I like to call our power crew. That's me on the right, Todd Baginski. I'm from Canvas, and I have a YouTube channel and a blog if you'd like to watch them and learn more about Power Apps. As always, hosting this call with me, Chuck, I think I'm going to start calling you maybe Skipper or Captain Charles Sterling, since you're always on the boat down there in Florida. How do you like that one?
I like it. You can be my first name.
So we've got Captain Sterling along here with us today, and Chuck guides everything community for the Power Apps platform in Microsoft, and we just all love Chuck for keeping us all abreast and helping our community grow. We also have Dana, Andrew, Heather, and Gabriel who are part of every call behind the scenes, producing it and cutting it up into little videos that you can watch in like a real snacky fashion afterwards. So to all of you, from all of us, thank you very much for being part of the Power App community. The other cool thing about our Power App community call is our chat channel. We constantly have all these folks here. Usually they're on the call, as well as other folks who are Microsoft Power Apps MVPs, Power App team members, champions. If you've got a question about Power Apps or Power Platform, bring it to this call, put it in the chat channel, and one of these folks or more of them is probably going to help you out and get you unblocked. That's why our community is so great. So that is a little bit about the Power App community call and what we're going to do this month. So now I would like to turn this over to Sharon, and she is going to take it away and tell us all about naughty and nice with Power Virtual Agents. Sharon, thank you for joining us.
Lovely to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. Yeah, we've had some really good fun with this topic, trying to work out what we could do that would bring all the technologies together. So anybody that knows me, I've got a blog and, put some videos out there. I'm all about the business process side of things and getting to value faster. So for me, the power in the Power Platform is how you use those tools to actually do an end-to-end process that actually does something really useful, which of course is going to be helping Santa today. So there's nothing really technical deep dive here to show you. Hopefully you've seen all of this before, but if you haven't, then maybe I'm going to give you a couple of use cases for the virtual assistant. So as we can see, Santa doesn't need to check this twice because he's got a new assistant, new guy in town. So what we've done is we've created a naughty or nice app. And step 1 is to take the quiz, and I appreciate that you can't get to that link. So what I've done is put it up on my blog so that you can follow along and actually complete the steps. Let me just flick to the right screen and give you that. Okay, I'd be very interested to know who is naughty and who is nice. And what we've got here is, so some of the things that we've done within this quiz. So the first of all, we're looking at just a little bit of a welcome here. So the first thing you need to do is to say hello. So that's how we get started. And what it does, if I just flick straight over to the app in the other window, Okay, so here you can see it's integrated. So we've just thrown it on a blog page just to show you that you can put the Power Virtual Agent wherever you would like, rather than just showing it in the plain window. So I'm just gonna say hello, and then I'm gonna zoom in because that feels kind of small. Okay, so the first thing the app is going to ask me is who I am. So we need some personal details. Now, obviously, the first thing we want to do is we want to put in a good name. So we're going to let's use Tiny Tim. I'll let those of you who know the story guess whether he's good or bad. So what country or region do you live in? Well, let's pop him in the UK just for today. And what city? He lives here with me in Cambridge. Okay, so some questions. Do you believe in Santa? Now, you might be able to work out what the right answer to the question is, to be naughty or nice. So let's say, of course. When was the last time you lost your temper? Well, if I'm Tiny Tim, probably, this question makes me really angry, probably last year, let's say that. Do you always say please and thank you? So what we did is we went and found some questions that could help determine things that you'd done, and we only put a few in there that might make you naughty or nice. So let's serve a Thanksgiving dinner. Do I use a lot of profanity? Let's say very rarely. And what we've done is in the background, there is a flow that is working out, oh dear, whether I'm naughty or nice. So on this occasion, I've been naughty, and it's pointing me to a blog of 23 ways to get onto Santa's nice list, which can open up a separate window. So that wasn't necessarily how I wanted this part of the demo to go. Okay. So what we're doing is we're just going through and we're working out who's naughty and who's nice. If I just bring this presentation over here, that's going to be easier. So that's the first part, being able to take the quiz, and hopefully everybody is busy taking the quiz. So step 2 would be the result. So as you saw there, I got the naughty, but if you were nice, then it would ask you what gifts you want. So what we've done is this is bringing the gift list from CDS, no, what do we call it, Dataverse today, and gives you the option of choosing whichever gift you would like, and that kicks off the next part of the process, which the other girls are going to tell you. But let me just tell you about a couple of little bits that I threw in here just to make the PVA interesting. So obviously it's important to know your repeat offenders, or your known offenders in this case. And in this case, if you were to put in the name, and please do try, either Chuck or John Levesque, if you know them personally, you'll know why, but they're immediately put on the naughty list. So it skips all the questions and just says, we know who you are. And I just made up a URL there of weseeyouwhenyou'resleeping.com for the appeals procedure. Okay, so that's just a custom message. And the way we've done this is with an if statement. So if we jump into the PVA, you can see that as we've asked the first question, which is the person's name, what we've got here is some if statements. So if you are Chuck or John Levesque, then you're clearly going off to my naughty topic. If, however, you are me, or because I got asked on Twitter last night, Brian Dang, then you will go to the nice peeps list. So we can show you that easily by testing in the chatbot here. If I just jump in with hello, I don't know if you can see that, it feels kind of tiny, and it's actually walking us through where that's going. So asking me my name. So if I put in Sharon Sumner, we should go down this condition over here, and immediately I get to choose a gift because I'm just so nice. Okay, so if we click back to the presentation, so we've handled our known offenders with an if, and we've been added a little bias just to get me straight to a gift because, you know, I'm good. Okay. The other thing that we can do, and a lot of people often, instead of using an if statement like that, because that can get unwieldy, that could get super wide. You see how many ifs we've got here just to handle those 4 people, even though we're taking it out to another topic. So the one thing that you can do is you can take it straight to a topic. So if you're on the app, please do try this. At any point during the app, instead of typing, if you would normally type hello, you can type that and it will begin the process. It knows that's still me. But if at any point you type ho, 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 because that's how Santa says hello, you'll get a nice little message designed especially for Santa. Hey, Santa, let's dance. And it takes him off to his Spotify list, which is this one here, which is the Christmas songs, holiday music. So it's just about knowing your audience. So those 2 methods there. So if we're going to put in a lot of exceptions, and when we look back up at the topics, because we can have as many as we would like in terms of triggers, so I just called this one Secret Santa, you can see that the trigger is ho, ho, ho. So I could have put any number of triggers in here, and then within the authoring canvas, I could have said what was going to happen for each of the individual triggers based on what was put in at the top, or I could have had a topic for each of those little Easter eggs that you want to put in there. Done there. And then finally, just to show you the flows that live in there. So, and you can see it from the slide, but I could show you on the flow itself as well. So we've got a Power Automate that is going to take all of the question data and then do an assessment of the naughty and nice. So in Flow, it's just based on the answers to those questions. A little secret sauce there, not going to share that one, how I determine whether you're naughty or nice. And then the gift choices one is pulling back the gift choices. So we get the first action that we need is to pull those gift choices out of CDS. So, sorry, Dataverse, so that when we are looking at that data, it's live data. So if in the background, the elves don't have any more diamond rings or Teslas, as I wanted to put on there, then if that product has gone out of availability, maybe they're going to put another one in. So that's why we're pulling the gift choices live. And then we're asking the user for a number, and we're then resolving it backwards again to work out what the gift was that they chose using an array in the flow. And this is just the feeding of that gift choice back. So we've used 3 Power Automate flows in the solution to get to the point of writing your record and your gift choice and your status of naughty or nice back to Dataverse for Jese and Clarissa to pick up in the various other apps that we've got there. And while I'm on this page, I'm going to finish because I know we're on a really tight timeline. The reason I put Santa on here was to remind me that my gift for Christmas, please, would be that I could bring these values back in instead of having to make up numbers. Please, 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 could we bring results of those back into our Power VA? And I know we've got the product team on, so I thought I would cheekily ask whether we could have that in there, please. And that's really me. So please do go on. Hopefully we're getting notifications left, right and centre that people are filling it in. Yep. And I can see some people are being naughty or nice. So that really ends the Power VA. Clarissa.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm getting multiple pings as all of the requests come through. So awesome to see we've got lots and lots and lots of nice people on the call.
This is a very nice.
That's really neat. I love your guys' theme or gals' theme this month. Sharon, I'm curious. So you obviously brainstormed this idea and probably, I'm imagining, built your requirements as you went along and built it this time. But if you had like your whole flow on all the questions and answered designed, and it was a survey about this big that many of us just took, how long would this take you to build that?
Oh, that was ridiculously quick. So obviously you're going to go through the requirements phase and you're going to work out whether it should be an if or whether it should be a topic. And really, it's the same with everything in IT, right? So do the design first, and then the build is really, really simple. So once you've made all of your decisions about how the data is going to flow, then the build itself was the most complex thing was passing in and out of the values into CDS, right? So the fact that you have to turn it into a number and then read an array and kind of do that bit backwards, that was the longest part. But I would say all up, 45 minutes, an hour to do the PVA. It is so simple. Beautiful.
It's crazy. I always like to ask that question because, as we all know, one of the amazing things about these low-code tools are how fast we can do things compared to how we used to have to write everything from scratch many times. So that's just really amazing. All right. Well, thank you for walking us through that. That is a really cool way to see the power of the Power Virtual Agent and a fun holiday theme. All right, that is going to bring us next. And I don't think I even need to take back the slides here. I think Clarissa can just go right ahead and grab control here and bring it up next. So Clarissa, I understand that you are helping the elves make these presents if people have been ordered now. Is it going through an order basically if this CVA says you were nice?
So essentially this follows directly on. The first thing that we do is we have a flow that's going to bring in that data, noticing that Sharon's put that record, that response record in our Dataverse. Now we need to convert that into a present record and then start getting that ready to go. And then the ELF supervisors use a model-driven app, and the ELF workers use a Canvas app to actually go through the process of making the present. So just got a couple of slides to introduce. So of course, yep, we already know who's naughty and who's nice, so let's go making some presents. And this kind of shows the kind of process that we've got going on here. And everything that you'll see in this bit is obviously powered by Microsoft Dataverse. And it's really cool that you can have this kind of two-tier system almost of being able to present the model-driven app for more kind of like process-based supervising tasks, and also be able to present the like more kind of user interactive Canvas app piece as well. So I'm just going to briefly touch on how this actually looks in terms of the data model. So what we have is we have a response that comes in, and that response triggers off a present to be created. And that present has different attributes, different columns in it, like a status and a recipient. And it's also allocated to one ELF at a time, and it's made using a recipe. So this is something that, you know, obviously we're using it for Christmas presents, but the beauty of creating models in this kind of way is that you can look at it and say, oh, actually, you know, what else kind of uses recipes and components and ingredients and instructions? You could use this in a restaurant application, or you could use it in multiple different other production line scenarios. So obviously it's one of those things that the process that you go through to create data models in Dataverse allows you to be really abstract and actually make something that is reusable, which is really, really cool. So enough kind of just talking about it. Let's actually see it. So I'm just going to kill my share a second and bring back the correct screen. And we will find out who is our winner of the first person. You can see how many nice people we've got. Look at all of these emails that have come through. This is amazing. But we'll see who is the lucky winner, who actually was the first nice person to answer our questionnaire. So we've got our email that lets us know that a new nice person has filled out the questionnaire. This would be, obviously this is my account, but this would be the account for an ELF supervisor. And so we need to click here to kickstart the present. And in doing so, we find Jamie, you're the winner. You're the first person to fill this out and be nice. So excellent. Let's get your present through the system. So we can see that Jamie's present has been requested, and this is obviously in the model-driven app, and we've got lots of different areas that we can view in the model-driven app. And we've also got this thing along the top, which if you haven't seen before, this is a business process flow. And this allows us to really easily kind of streamline the supervisor's role, because rather than having to look through here and go, oh, well, maybe what do I have to do now? They can just click here and see, okay, the first thing I need to do is I need to allocate this present to a specific ELF. If we hit enter, we see we've got a bunch of different ELFs. So let's allocate this to Bob. Perfect. And send that on to the next stage. And you'll see, you might have missed it because it happened so fast. As soon as I allocated that to Bob, the status changed from requested to allocated. And what's actually going on in the background, because of course I can't change this here because it's a read-only field. But what's happening in the background is that there are business rules that are built to automatically set the status to the correct status so that we don't end up having, human error getting in the way of the process. And these business rules are really, really easy to set up because you just start off with a condition and you can add these different rules to your condition. So in this case, we've got if this present has been allocated to an ELF, so if the allocated to contains data, and the resource step has not yet been confirmed, then we know that it's allocated. Perfect. So that's come through the system and we can see that here. And then let's have a look at what Bob's experience is. And this is where we come to the Canvas app. So he's got his Christmas present production. Like, he's just come into work for the day to start his shift. He'll log in as himself and he'll see that, there we go, Jamie's present needs resourcing. It's immediately come through the system. He doesn't need to do anything to find out what his new jobs are. He can just go ahead straight away and make them. So let's have a look at the needs resourcing steps. So the first thing that Bob needs to do is he needs to go and collect items from a stockpile. And what we have in the system is we've got this stockpile which has all the different ingredients and components that all the elves have access to. And as the elves are going through and collecting resources for the presents, these items are ticking down. So then Santa or the supervisors can have a check and see what resources they need to get into the factory. So currently, if we just have a look at stock amount of metal, we've got 200 and we've got a maximum capacity of 250. And obviously, we need to pick up some metal to make our toy car. So let's simulate Bob going off and collecting all of those items. Perfect. Submit the resourcing step. And you can see we get this nice little thank you message for helping to make the present. Perfect. And now it says resourced, and we can't go through to the next step because it hasn't been allocated to us and confirmed by a supervisor yet. But what we'll also see if we come into our stockpile is now we've got 199 bits of metal. So this helps us to maintain, keep track of that inventory. You'll notice as well, I just got another email, so I'm just going to go up to the top. As a supervisor, I then get notified that Bob has flagged the resourcing step for this one complete. Perfect. So then I would go over to Bob's station in the elf factory, and I would go and confirm whether that's been completed. So we'll say that Bob did a good job. Excellent. And we can either tick it here or we can just tick it up here, again, following our business process flow. And we know the next step is manufacturing, and maybe Bob isn't very good at making toy cars. So what we might want to do is switch out to a different elf. Let's say Felix. Excellent. So we've submitted that to the next stage. So if Bob were then to refresh, notice obviously Jamie's present no longer exists in his queue. And if we were to log in as Felix instead, now see Jamie's present there waiting to be manufactured. Once again, we've got all of the different instructions that we need to follow. And so we can go through, and for some reason I decided to put these in great detail because I got too excited about it all. So we'll say, excellent, Felix has gone and made the present. And just as you would expect, we're shortly going to get an email saying, hey, Felix has flagged it. Go and check up on Felix's progress. And essentially, this is the process for the whole system. So we can go and say, yep, that's been completed. We're going to send it to Cara for wrapping. Oh, no. There we go. So we're going to send it over to Cara. And you'll see Jamie's present is here. So we've got all these different steps in the process. All of them can be managed by different or allocated to different people and managed by one person who is just going between their emails and the model driven app, just really quickly be able to just flag, yep, that's been done, that's been done. Perfect. And now we can see, excellent, that's been flagged. And at each step of this process, as we're moving it through the business process, this status is getting updated automatically, and that data can then be reported on. So if we confirm this, and we come through, so we've got one final step which is the packing step. And if we refresh, we can see that now Jamie's present needs packing. Let's put that through and let's add that to the sleigh. So there you go, Jamie, you're getting a Matchbox car for Christmas. And of course, there's multiple other different recipes and instructions, and all of these are perfectly configurable on the back end. So if we were to, for example, come into here and have a look at recipes, we can see that for the diamond ring, we've got different recipe components that we need to add in and link to this actual recipe in a one-to-many relationship. So we've got one recipe has many different components or ingredients, and also one recipe has many different instructions. And just by adding in new recipe instructions in here, for example, let's just add a new one, position 6, and say, try it on for size. Excellent, save and close. That is now here. I forgot how many I had before, but that doesn't matter. So we can also change the order of these and everything from the back end. And then without having to republish our application, we should be able to see that we've now got try it on for size, a new instruction here. So you can have your managing staff and your supervising staff actually setting up these tasks in a perfectly easy, configurable way, and then instantaneously your elves know their new instructions and what to do. So this is kind of the power of doing it in this way. Perfect. So I believe that is the present production line. If anyone has any questions about any specific part of how that works, please go ahead. Otherwise, we can jump to Jese's part, so we can find out what we do with all of this data now we've got it.
Fantastic. We had people in chat even speaking up and saying, you know what, I made an app similar to this to handle the registration and check-in for people financially impacted by the pandemic. A gentleman named Daniel pointed that out, and so he made a similar app to that. You know, one of the things I really love about your demo is it's just fun. For one, that was great, but for two, so many times in Power Apps when we see a demo of something, we only see a Canvas app. How can you do this in a Canvas app, or what can I do in a model-driven app? But you really painted the picture really good about how the Canvas app can be used for those frontline workers, or the people actually mobile out in the field or something like that, while management or administration uses the model-driven app many times.
Yeah, I think
I
it's
bet you
really...
build solutions like that a lot, considering how natural you just walk through that and how they all fit their spot in the solution so well.
Well, actually, this one was my first Dataverse solution, because I had previously been working with SharePoint, so I was really excited to get to grips with using Dataverse, and it really seemed like this is kind of one of the reasons for me why Dataverse kind of stands above using things like SharePoint. Is because you can have that that different tier system of having a back end and a front end, so that you can have people who are, for example, like the elves on the front line, they're not going to be as tech savvy or have like Dynamics 365 training or anything, and they don't need to. They can just use the Canvas app. Whereas your people who are a bit more kind of integrated with the data and the processes, they can use something that's quicker to build, and they can configure it all and make it their own.
Yeah, exactly. And it goes back to what we just said at the end of Sharon's presentation on like how easy it is to build, right? You write some code to build your model-driven app. I mean, your Canvas app, you built that from scratch, but your model-driven app, you just configured those screens to meet your needs, right? And that probably went real quick. I imagine your model-driven development there was, what, 1/10 maybe of your Canvas app development time?
Yeah, it's definitely quicker.
Yeah.
There's definitely and this again ties back into what Sharon was saying, that planning stage is really, really important. So we have, just as Sharon was saying about getting her requirements, for me, producing that kind of diagram of that data model, that is where the majority of the kind of model-driven app time goes, is in setting the actual model. And then once you've got that model, as you say, it's really, really quick. And something that I only found out about during the process of making these is adding subgrids into forms so that you can show, for example, in that recipe form, you saw the list of components and the list of instructions. So those are both subgrids in the forms, and they are really, really fantastic and really just quick and easy to put in and use. So
they're real nice too, because you can put the related information on the same page to put it all in the context of one spot, just like you did it there. That was great. What a fun app. Here we go with number 3 now. Thanks, Clarissa. Jesse now is going to track this on the way to Jamie, I suppose. And congratulations, Jamie, for being the first one.
Jamie for winning his imaginary present. I'm not sure we're actually going to ship that out to you. But, so I am going to go and look at how we can track all this in Power BI. So that's going to be the start, and then I'm going to show the Power App visual within Power BI. So something I get really excited about is like the integration between all these different layers, and then using Power Automate to actually refresh that Power BI dataset. So let's have a start by looking at the report. So I'm in my workspace here. I've just put it into my workspace, and I have a report here called Santa's Present Tracker, and on here we see a timeline of events. So we see when this first started. So can you imagine, we've been working on this in September. So back in September, Sharon was naughty. We had myself there as naughty as well. And then you've got a lot of today, where you've got quite a few of these different events here. So we can see that in a timeline. If I make that a little bit bigger as well, to see that a bit clearer. Or not. So I'm expecting to see, well, I've got it open here, so I'm just going to show it here instead. I thought that was published. But here you can see all of our naughty and nice people on our timeline. And then we've got our little pie chart. For anyone that doesn't like a pie chart, I love them. I think they're so simple to use. So you've got our nice people there. We've got the geographical distribution here. We've got Australia, we've got Europe, we've got North America. So quickly we can have a look at who's naughty and nice on our list. Now, the other page here is essentially our ELF factories. As a supervisor, we want to be able to come into a report and quickly see how are things going. So you can see our inventory very quickly. So we've got our cloth, our diamond, our gold. We've got our metal that Clarissa was using to build Jamie's present there. And we can see everyone's presents that have come through here. And I think the elf was a Kara that was tasked to build Jamie's present there. So he had the Matchbox car, so it's been manufactured, so we can see that. And Kara was able to build that. If I take off our filter on our elves, we can see all our different elves that we have here. We can see a bit of information about them. So as a manager, as a supervisor, I can quickly see who's working. So you've got Bob there, Cara, Eleanor, Felix. You've got their ages, you've got their height and their favorite color. And of course, Power BI, anything that I kind of start clicking around will start interacting some of that. So Jamie's present is not requested, but it's in the manufactured area there, so I can see that. Now, what I've done here is we've got this little elf icon up here. So if I click that, my Power App will appear. I'm actually going to go back to my web page and see if that's actually loaded now. I think it just didn't refresh. If I click on my app, my Power App appears. So I can now actually go into the elf production line and I can see what Cara is doing, for example. I can see that she's got Jamie's present, which is resourced, manufactured, wrapped and packed. And Clarissa's present is resourced and manufactured. So how did I actually do this? Let's have a look at that back in the desktop. As that's opening, I've essentially pulled in all the extracts from Dataverse. So all the tables have been pulled in and I'm reading all that data to show you all that information. Now, just to show you how that actually works in Power BI, we have this built-in icon called Power Apps for Power BI. So this is how easy it is to actually just bring in that Power App into my report. So I've brought in this app here. And what it will ask me is to kind of put in some data fields. So I know that that app that Clarissa has built has some of these fields in there. So as soon as I do that, it will allow me to either create an application or to choose an existing application. So I'm going to go for an existing one, and I've chosen the present production line, and that's how easy it is to bring my Power App into here. So I guess, the reason I wanted to kind of show this is that, a lot of time, this is obviously a Santa kind of made up kind of scenario, but a lot of time working with clients, you do see that having that Power App and Power BI integration can be really useful, especially when you want to make decisions on the Power BI report that then impact data. So I could, see trends and graphs, and might want to create actions, but I don't necessarily want to come out of my Power BI report in order to do that. Now, the other thing that's happening here is, of course, we want our Power BI report to completely stay up to date as we go through this process. So what we have is we have a Power Automate in the background that actually refreshes that data set as soon as you get to a page in Clarissa's application. Now, this is a very simple flow. And just to show you that, so you've got your first step there, which is just initializing from Power Apps. So this happens when you click a button, and then we refresh our data set, and it's all UI driven. So I can click the My Workspace, and then I can go to Santa's present tracker, and then I can save that. And whenever that's run, it's actually going to refresh the Power BI data set in the background. So that's how we can kind of bring everything together. So just to point out kind of a few tips here, when we do use that refreshing Power BI dataset in the flow, you need to make sure that you are signed in. And the way you do that is you go to your workspace, you find your dataset, so that's Santa's present tracker. I will then go into my scheduled refresh. And this is the really important thing. You need to make sure that your data source is signed in here, and that all of your data sources are either in the cloud or somewhere on the web where you have signed in. So really important to kind of see that and log in, because when you're testing, you might find that you're using this flow and it doesn't quite refresh the data set straight away. So that's that Power BI report there. And I want to kind of talk through basically everything we've spoken about, because we have, as the three of us, essentially brought in so much of this platform. So just putting that on the screen and kind of talking through a few of these components. So we have CDS. I should have renamed it as Dataverse. I hadn't actually done that yet, but this is the data store for the outputs of the PVA. It's the data store for the outputs of our present and for our elves, essentially. We also then take the PVA to CDS. We also use Power Automate to do that. And as well as using Power Automate to do that, we're also using it to refresh our data sets. We have our naughty or nice PVA over here. And of course, we're feeding in information using Power Automate into our CDS. We then have our Power BI report, and that's taking data from CDS. It's also using Power Automate in terms of when you click a button within our Power App within our Power BI, and we also have our two apps here. So we have our model-driven production application, and we have our Canvas app present production application. So you can see just how much we've been able to use the power of the platform here. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that.
I know everybody really enjoyed that. The chat is very, very, very complimentary of all of you. This is incredible. So fun to see you do this entire thing and put it all together. And I know you all have been working on this for a long time. Thank you so much. I noticed in Jese, when you showed your flow that did the refresh for the Power BI, for those folks on the call who've never seen a flow before and were wondering at that first action at the top, it said Power BI. That's just a trigger, basically. That means this flow was invoked by Power Apps. And Jese pointed out, is it a button? And so that button that she puts into the Power App is actually what kicks that flow off. I just wanted to point that out because I know we usually have people on the call who haven't seen it before, and they might be like, whoa, what's that thing all about? Very fantastic. Actually... And you know, what's really neat about your report there too is Daniel Holliday, the same gentleman who spoke up and said he made the app that I mentioned after the last demo. He said, I'm blown away how similar the real life usage is. My Power BI updated inventory and triggered marketing departments to be able to speak to local news and most of the outlets on the items most needed. And so like you may have made a fun little Santa themed thing here, but it's so real life in general and the concepts you're talking about and the tools that we would use to build a solution like that. Very well done, man. I wish you three would pull one of these together every month. That was so much fun. Thank you very much. I hope you can all come back again sometime and share all your awesome expertise.
Challenge accepted.
Very good. Well, let's see here. I think I'm going to turn it back over to Chuck now. Chuck, I'm going to put the slide up here, Chuck. We have some recent news to cover.
Yeah, there's a couple things. So I don't know if you saw last Thursday, a friend of mine, Richard Dickinson, I published it, his blog post on a brand new Dataverse connector. And this is actually written on this exact same technology that enabled the TDS endpoint for the connection from Power BI to the Common Data Service, or Dataverse as it's referred to, allowing direct query. Last Thursday, we actually have a brand new connector that lets you do that directly to the Dataverse. So there's a Dataverse connector. The reason I actually asked Todd to bring this up, A, it's exciting and it's new, and then B, there's a couple questions of saying, hey, if I actually already was using the existing Common Data Service connector, now called Common Data Service Connector Legacy, what's the right way of actually upgrading my reports? Unfortunately, we actually look at the schema a little bit differently, and since we support direct query, some of the M transformations need to be changed a little bit. So what you're gonna have to do to upgrade that is go ahead and bring that connector into your existing reports and then actually bring over the data as needed. So you don't actually have to do it all at once. You can actually have two connectors by going out and doing get data in Power BI, and you can actually reference it. So that's the first one. And then the one that we actually just released was yesterday by Mark Paspaldi, was actually the ability to actually have Power BI reports in your model-based dashboards. Okay, so the reason this is particularly exciting, A, it's new, like I said before, and it gives you some new technology, is two other reasons. One is ALM aware. So what it does is it lets you not just point to the Power BI report or the Power BI dashboard or the Power BI asset, but actually point to an environment variable. Me and Todd were actually going to do a session on environment variables. What was that, back in April or May, Todd?
Yeah, March. Yeah, way
March.
back in spring.
Yeah, it was March. I don't think we did it, but environment variables are super cool for actually enabling ALM scenarios. So as you actually push it through a pipeline, we can actually go ahead and upgrade your Power BI report that's been referenced. So that's the first reason it's cool. The second reason it's cool is actually it gives you a precursor as to what the Canvas-based Power BI integration is. So right now, when you go to charts, you can actually add Power BI to your Canvas-based apps. Well, this is actually what the new version of that is going to be based on. So Daniel Christian, who I know is here, I've been seeing him chat, take a look at it because that gives you a view as to what is going to come for Canvas-based and not very far away. Again, not trying to break any NDAs or actually steal Mark's thunder, but this is actually gives you a precursor of what's available for Canvas in the near future. So Todd, I think that's actually the only two. That's all I see on the list. I'm going to give it back to you.
Right on. Sounds good. Okay. So our awesome Power App community, things we like to point out and honor everyone in our community every month. The first thing is we like to talk about our community contributions. And we use the Power Apps CC for Power Apps community call hashtag. And so anytime you've got something cool to share about Power Apps, hit it with this hashtag because usually everybody on this call is monitoring that and checking it out. It's a good way to get help or just share what you're doing with everyone else. So thanks to all these people right here who last month had something to say on Twitter and share what they did with the Power Apps community. It's great to see many of you here today too. And I even saw Jamie was on the list and he won the prize, so woohoo to that. The other thing about this great Power Apps community is the Power Addicts Hangout. This also happens once every month, and you can find out exactly when it occurs at wearePowerAddicts.com. Several folks who run this call and jump into this call do it much like we do here every month, and just having different people from the community share all the goodness that they're working on. So check that out if you get a chance as well. And if you'd also like to look for a little more short, snacky type of videos, maybe 5 to 15-minute videos that on cool Power Apps topics coming from experts all around the world, check out Donna and Sarah's series on Channel 9 called Less Code, More Power. You'll also find all kinds of great things, even from some folks who've been here with us on this call before and presented as well. So to close out 2020, we'd all like to say, again, thank you very much to all of you. This community is really about everyone here on this call coming together and teaching us and all of the great things and helping each other out. And we had 3 brand new folks jump on the call here for the first time from the community and hit it out of the ballpark today with the home run. So awesome, great fun. Thank you very much. We will see you all again next year in 2021 on January 20th at 8 a.m. Pacific time again for our next call. If you did miss the call or you'd like to share it with somebody else, you can get the call on the Microsoft 365 YouTube developer channel, where it's also chopped up into smaller individual demos. And finally, follow us on Twitter at Microsoft 365 Dev. Thanks again, everybody, and have a great holiday.
Thanks, Todd.
Thanks, everybody.